All right, I'm back. So in the prior segment, I was talking about those who get really excited around this time of year. They look forward to all of the festivities and the gifts and so forth. This is their time, Christmas, the holiday season. Then there are those who can take it or leave it. Christmas can be burdensome, a little shallow, superficial, so forth. Then you have those who choose not to celebrate Christmas because it's pagan or that it has pagan roots. Now that's the group. That last group is the group that I'm going to focus in on in this segment. So those who choose not to celebrate Christmas, when they're talking to someone or to their audience, they tend to go on repeat or on loop about Christmas being pagan or having pagan roots. And so they will get into some historical facts. Some know more historical facts than others. But the point is that Christmas is pagan, or that it has pagan roots. And then some will go further and say that it's diabolical, it's satanic, it's demonic, it's evil, and so forth. Okay. And they say this with such fervor and such passion as if you and I, those of us who are on the other side of this equation, as if we don't truly believe that Christmas is pagan or that it has pagan roots, or that we don't understand the gravity of it all. Okay. But let me share something with you, though. Most people, the majority of people, I would even say in the world, whether they're religious or not, already believe that Christmas is pagan or has pagan roots. They already know that. Yes. So it's like you're preaching to the mass choir, to this massive choir. You're not really advancing your argument at all. We already get that. So you might say, well, Henry, if you get it, then why do you defend the celebration of Christmas, or that you advocate for the celebration of Christmas in some fashion? Good question. But let me emphasize this. The disagreement is not over the historical facts of Christmas, the pagan origins of Christmas. That's not where the dispute is. That's not where the disagreement is. The disagreement is whether or not the paganism can be decoupled from the holiday. Okay? Whether or not there can be a separation of the paganism. That's where the disagreement is. Because those of you who say you can't celebrate Christmas, you shouldn't celebrate Christmas, don't see that. You don't see that there can ever be a separation. That it is concretely pagan always, no matter what you do. Okay? I remember watching a Seventh-day Adventist minister on his website, on his podcast, and this was about a couple of years ago. And he was bringing up this term. He was talking about the holiday season. And he was bringing up this term called genetic fallacy. And I hadn't heard that before. And he was basically saying that a genetic fallacy is about something starting off as profane and pagan. And those who may be wedded to a genetic fallacy see that as it never changing. When you talk about something being in the genes, you're locked in. And so for something that is pagan, it doesn't matter if, time has gone by, different people, different cultures, different practices that have no resemblance to the paganism whatsoever. The way that they see it is, no, you're just glossing over it. It's like lipstick on a pig. It is always pagan, no matter what. There's a permanence to it. That's the way that they see it. So he was saying they are wedded to a genetic fallacy. I agreed with him. I was already on board years before I even heard that. I was just using a different term. The term that I would use is rigid association. There's no flexibility. There's no latitude. You're just locked in. The paganism is rigid. So again, it can be 150 years, 200 years later, different culture, different people. You can say, yes, I'm doing this in recognition of Christ's birth. You could be singing Christmas hymns, come all ye faithful, joy to the world. In their view, those who choose not to celebrate Christmas and say that no one should celebrate Christmas, they say, no, it makes no difference. The paganism is still there, and therefore you are guilty by association, because Christmas is still pagan, and therefore the connection is still there. It's not severed, no matter what you do. You see, that's where the disagreement is. So you can do the back and forth, and it goes nowhere. See, remember, I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just saying this is the dynamic. But let me shift this. Here's my ask. Give me the same energy around other pagan activities and associations. Please, give me the same energy. Give me the same energy around the Greco-Roman calendar. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Each of those days point to a pagan god. It's all about the mythology. It's all about the astrology. You're not in denial of that, are you? The Greco-Roman calendar is pagan through and through. Do I need to put that on repeat? Do I need to put that on loop? Oh, you might say, well, what else are we going to use? We have to keep track of the time and the dates. Yes, we do. But when did necessity become the excuse for us to continue with something that is pagan? See, I'm going along with you all's paradigm, not mine, because you're locked in. There's a rigid association. Why aren't you uncoupling or decoupling yourself from the Greco-Roman calendar? Are you using necessity as an excuse? Because if we can use necessity there as an excuse, then we can use it elsewhere. What about those who work on the Sabbath? They can say, well, I need to provide for my family. I have children that I have to feed. You wouldn't want them to go hungry or starve. I do this because of necessity. Give me the same energy. Give me the same energy around tattoos. Yes. In Leviticus chapter 19, verse 28, God told his people, the Israelites, do not mark your bodies with tattoos. Why? The surrounding nations, that's what they would do. Pointing to satanic and sexual rituals and war. Yes. Yes, but I don't hear the same energy. You're almost mute around that. Give me the same energy around drums and percussion. You might say, well, Henry, what are you talking about now? Well, in the distant past, and even in the present to some degree, parts of Africa, not all, and even some parts of the world, there were certain tribes who would beat on the drums to call up the spirits of the dead. How much more pagan can you be? That's of the occult. That's satanic. But see, if you're wedded to the genetic fallacy, if you have the rigid association, you shouldn't be listening to music that incorporates drums and percussion because it's associated with paganism. But see, those of us who are on the other side of the equation, we know that we can make the separation. We know that drums is for the music and for the rhythm and for the beat. There is a separation. But see, if you have that certain paradigm around paganism, then you're locked in. See, really, it speaks to the inconsistency. Because people are listening to what you say and what you don't say. They hear all of the passion and the fervor around the pagan holidays. Ooh. But they don't hear the same passion and fervor around other pagan activities and associations. Why? Okay? Now we're going to break off here, but just keep in mind that we're going to move into the next segment, the last segment, and we're going to get into some Ellen White quotations. Now, keep in mind, she has written more than 100 comments. I stopped counting around 100. So there are much more around Christmas and the holiday season. Now, I'm not going to go through 100 comments. I don't have time for that. I'm just going to pick out a few, but I'll be able to make my point. Remember what I said in the first segment, though, around Ellen White and where we are as Adventists, okay? See you on the other side.